it's me, Margaret, sitting on a stool in my craft closet. All my kids left yesterday, so I came down here in the afternoon and I started cleaning and organizing. And part of the reason why, of course, it just needed to be done, but I'm also thinking ahead toward what my crafty goals are going to be for 2020. And I basically have come up with one, and that is to craft from my stash. Now, I'm not talking about just yarn, which is probably the most of what you see here, but to this side over here is a lot of generic, not generic, just different types of craft supplies are located in, well, here, I'll show you, in these type of things. And then I've got fabric over here, and there's just stuff all over the place in this closet. Bottom line is I have too many supplies. Now, if you've kept up with my videos, I know they've been a little sparse lately, but I have told you that we're in the process of moving. We knew that staying here in the Atlanta area was going to be part-time. We knew it was going to be a short-lived experience. 4 years actually is where we made it, and we're going to where we're going to retire, and that's going to be in Texas. Now, the house we're building is going to be finished at the end of March, so that means I've got 3 months to pack up this house and get it ready to go. I will have a craft room, I will have a craft closet, and so I have a place to bring my stuff, right? But here's the way I've been thinking about it. All year long, I've been thinking, moving vans charge by the pound. Let's get the pounds of stuff that we don't want, don't need, and find it a new home, right? And I'm going to continue that process with my craft supplies. I'm going to craft from my stash. Oh, that sounds kind of familiar, some of you might say. Erin, Give Me Yarn 418, has started a group who, sort of like a support group, where we're all going to craft from our stash. And you kind of customize all this your way, okay? I'm going to link her video in the description box below so that you can hear how she describes it. So we're trying to tame our stashes, is pretty much the way I perceive this. And now, of course, everybody has different goals. Everybody is earning different, they're giving themselves different monthly budgets and all that kind of stuff. And that's the beauty of it. It's everybody can do what fits them the best. Now, the way I am going to work my particular system is I'm going to continue with my thought process for the whole past year. And that is pounds. I want to remove pounds from my house, right? So as I complete things, I'm going to keep a little spreadsheet and write down what supplies I've used and weigh it and give myself an idea of how much I am removing from the house. Or maybe I should say removing from the craft closet. So if I make something for myself, for example, which I don't often do, but I do see something, I'll tell you about that in a minute. It's still going to stay with me, right? If I make it with myself, it's still going to stay with me. But I'm using up my craft supplies. I like that idea. If I am doing it as a donation, well, it's going to be donated before I leave. I'm not taking my crafted hats with me to Texas. No. Okay, so yeah, for yarn, I'll just weigh my project and I'll write that down. That'll be fun. But what do you do about fabric? Come see. One of the kicks I've been on this year is to remake things. Like I'll get something from Goodwill, or better yet, I'll take something out of my own closet that I'm not wearing, and then I'll refashion it into something else. You may have seen that I've done that from old shirts into skirts and things like that. Okay, what we have here are some of our old jeans that we have either Thomas has outgrown or Tucker has totally worn out. So these are ones that are so, you know, look at the color of them. And yet I've been using them for craft projects. I have made, well, lots of different things. I've shown them in my old videos, like little soup bowl holders. We really got a lot of use out of these little soup bowl holders. I'm not sure what you call them, over the holidays, because we have soup a lot. And this is awesome for reheating soup. You put it in there and in the microwave like this, and then when you take it out, if your bowl is hot, because the soup gets so hot, even though this is microwave safe, it protects your hands. It also kind of insulates it too, so it keeps it warmer longer. And then the best part about it, like I fished this one out of the dirty clothes, as a matter of fact, you see how you might spill something on it? Well, it's just jeans. You just toss it in the washer and dryer and don't think twice about it. And I just love these things. I'm going to find the link to the instructions where I found this, in case you want to make some of your own. And doll clothes, things like that. So that's basically what a lot of this is clothes that I either did not want to donate because I didn't think they were in good quality, but yet parts of them were, so they could be used for doll clothes and things like that. And I am enjoying my sewing for 18-inch dolls. That has been such a fun craft for me. I'm practicing so many sewing skills, and I'm so bold with it because it's kind of like I'm not ruining anything. You know, you go to the fabric store and you buy this great big 4 yards of fabric to make this lovely dress. You screw it up, well, you've lost a good bit of money there if you can't use that fabric again. But if I have an old shirt that I'm not going to wear again, but it has a stain on it in a certain place, I can't donate it, right? But I can use it for my practice sewing with these 18-inch doll clothes, and I have had so much fun, and I've learned new sewing skills with it too. So this is important to me, and I want to keep doing it. But I have some really high quality fabric too to make myself some things that I want to, that I saved a lot of money by buying it from Goodwill, and I'm going to refashion it. So I really like this idea, but it's not doing me any good if it's folded up and sitting on a shelf, right? So I need to do something with it, and I certainly don't need to go to the store and be buying anything else to bring into my house. That's our goal of Craft Your Stash 2020. Now, I have been doing crafting a lot from my stash, but this doesn't count towards our Craft Your Stash 2020 because that begins with the new year, and today is only December 30th. This was done during the month of December, but I do want to talk about it. Now, what I'm about to show you is me using up some scraps and open skeins. This is what I'm doing with some hats. Now, I thought I was making myself this pink divine hat. Now, I've done a tutorial recently using the divine hat pattern, but what I did was contrasting color for all these swirls, and it looked like candy. It looked kind of like peppermint. So I called it a candy swirl hat, and I loved it, but I wanted a solid pink one for myself. So I made this, and I look horrible in it. My skin is kind of pink, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I ended up looking bald-headed when I put it on. So this is not a good color for me, so I'll have to donate it. But the hat is a great hat. It's kind of heavy. It's a lot of yarn goes into one hat. And speaking of a lot of yarn, this is called a super bulky scrap hat. This is something that I did years ago by using multiple strands of yarn and a large hook using a single crochet only. I like it best with single crochet because it just, I don't know, I just like the way it comes out. Now, I do have a tutorial for this, and I always thought it was so funny that people kept asking for a tutorial because to me it wasn't anything special, yet it is one of the #1 favorite hats of the charities where I used to take my stuff. The charity where I took my stuff let people pick their own hats, and they loved the multicolor hats like this. They didn't necessarily like the variegated yarn in crochet, and I don't like that either because it looks chunky color, but they loved this. And so I said, well, great, all right. So I ended up doing a tutorial for this, and it's a great way to use up your hats. Besides being a favorite aesthetically of the people in the charity, it's such a nice warm hat. It's really heavy. You know what, I just looked in the viewfinder for the first time, and this color doesn't look right. There, that's better. This is more accurate. Here was that pink color, and here is the super scrappy hat. Super bulky scrap hat. Sorry, I don't even know the name of it. I'll link this below if you want to do it, but it is a favorite among charities, not only for its warmth, but because of the variegated styling. I don't know what you would call that. This is another hat that I just love to do that, again, I have a tutorial for. I only had a little bit of this color left, And so what I did is found a color that I thought went with it, and then I add these as stripes in like that, and nothing goes to waste. Now this is a puff stitch hat, and it's done with a yarn called Yarn Bee Fair Isle, and the very creative color name of Red Black Multi. Now this is what it's supposed to look like in knitting. It's a faux Fair Isle. It looks like you're doing something fancy, but you're never changing yarn, not one little bit. Of course, this is knitting, and here it is crocheted in the puff stitch hat, and I'm going to put the link to this below. It's by someone named Bee Hooked Crochet, and I love her stuff. Now, Bee Hooked Crochet normally does this in a number 4 worsted, I think. This is a DK weight yarn, which is a little bit lighter, so all the puffs are smaller. And I do like the way this came out. I usually don't like variegated yarn in crochet, but this is a longer color change, and then you have something interesting where it looks like it's kind of mixed, where they have that faux Fair Isle going on. And also, I think this came out great. I like the border. I like the button. Now, this is not the border she does. I can't remember what she does, but I love this camel stitch edging for my crocheted hats. I think that's great. Now, when I finished this, I had just a little bit left. I knew I didn't have enough to do a hat like this. So I still did a puff stitch hat, but I did it almost bulky, I guess you could say, because I used a number 4 worsted with the DK weight held together. And you can see how it looks different. But you have no waste. You put that extra yarn to good use, and you have another thick, because this, whenever you use any kind of cluster stitch, like a puff or a shell or something like that, you do get a good heft to this fabric that it makes up, and I do like it. So anyhow, there's that. I did the same concept with this. This is actually a variegated yarn held together with this pecan. Here, I had some of this left, so I'll show you. It's impeccable, and the color is called Stillness. And you can see how the colors worked up. So I found something similar to this color that I had in my stash, and when I held it together, I got this nice bulky hat, which is good and warm, another favorite of Charity's. And the puff stitch hat, you have to be careful because it does make some holes in it, so it might be good to add a little extra warmth for the winter time. And here are 2 more puff stitch hats that I did with some multicolor yarn that I thought came out really pretty. Now see the color on it? Oh, there, that's a little bit better. This was yarn I got at a closeout. I think I paid like $1.50 for this. And actually, I think I got this one on a closeout as well. I very rarely pay full price for my big box store yarn. Now, this little hat is a feather stitch hat. This is traditionally done flat, and it looks more like a feather stitch, but I just wanted to see what would happen if I did it in the round, and this is what I get. It kind of leans, as does most crochet, in the diagonal format, but I really do like the stitch. Can you tell how it looks like a feather? Well, maybe if I hold it this way, it looks more like a feather. It looks even more so when it's done flat. But I really think that turned out great, and because it is a cluster type stitch, it's really thick and warm, so I thought that was neat. I'm going to do a tutorial on this. It's done from the bottom up, which makes it very easy to size. I love to do tutorials that are easy to size. Here's one I did in green, and you may be able to see that stitch definition a little bit better in the lighter color, which I do like a lot. And here's one I did in a variegated yarn. Now, this is slow color change yarn. This is not choppy variegation. Red Heart Unforgettable, which is, it says it's a number 4 worsted, but it's actually a little bit lighter than that. But notice that you get almost a whole row of color. And these are cluster type stitches. You know how you do a lot of activity in one stitch? That's what a cluster stitch is. So that's a lot of yarn that goes along here, in the same color. So we want slow color change yarns. You would not be able to see the stitch definition if you did a very active, fast color changing variegation. So keep that in mind. But anyway, I'm going to do a tutorial on this because I just think this is such a practical, fun hat. And you can tell I've been playing in my crochet stitch books just to look around. This hat I am going to call a modified bead stitch. Bead, like, you know, you wear some beads around your neck. This is actually done with half double crochet with this before you do the cluster instead of the traditional double crochet. And the reason why is because you get a squattier, fuller stitch, and I like it like that. There are some bead stitch tutorials on YouTube right now, but they're done from top down, and they also have more patterning between the bead stitch rows, which I like a lot, by the way. But my goal here was to do more bead stitches, and I've done this one from bottom up, which I find, like I said, easier to size. So yeah, look for this tutorial to come soon. I was playing with this thinking it would be fun to make a tassel on the top instead of a pom-pom. I don't know, we'll have to just see. Oh, and here I'm using that same Unforgettable, and you can see how pretty that's coming out too. The same, it's a bead stitch, or modified bead stitch, and I really like the way it's coming out in this long color change yarn. That's fun. All this that you see right here is paper, colored paper, and cardstock. I used to do a lot of desktop publishing for people, and I needed lots of different paper, and I've just kept it over the years. And believe it or not, this has really been worked down a lot because I've put it to good use in lieu of just regular white paper. For instance, I have been enjoying sewing American Girl doll clothes, you know, clothes for 18-inch dolls. And I've got a series of these patterns right here for a good price on sale. And just to keep them nice and sharp, I did some spray adhesive and I sprayed them on the back of some cardstock. And that makes them easy to be reused over and over again. And I keep the patterns here, and this is another craft supply actually that had tons and tons of these, what do you call these things? Page protectors. And so they are perfect for keeping all your pieces of patterns together. Now, if you are not going to use the pattern pieces over and over again, then there's no sense in backing them. But I have already used several of them over and over again, and I think it's pretty handy dandy. So, and then I just keep each one together like that. See, I haven't even opened these yet, but they're ready to go for when I do. I have always been a binder person for organizing things, and so as you might expect, I recycle everything, and these are old binders that were bought for other purposes, mostly from kids' school projects or whatever. If they're in good condition, they get reused. These four have American Girl patterns in them. Some are free off the internet. There are a lot of free ones actually on the internet right now that people are willing, you know, to create and share. And then of course, just like people patterns, you can actually buy patterns online from Etsy or whatever, and you can download and print them. And so that's what this is right here. And when I print knitting and crochet patterns, they usually go into this notebook, and I don't let myself, this is a large one, and so I don't let myself print any more than that. And I really need to go through this. I don't need this anymore. So I am, again, this is great to do while you're watching TV or something like that. Just flip through your printed collection and see if you want to keep it or not. Lighten the load. Back in November, I was out and about, and I saw a bag of pom-poms, and I can't think what one would do with a bag of red and yellow pom-poms. So help me out in the comments section. What might you do with this? And you can't say put them on a beanie, you know, that's obvious, but why would someone just want to buy this? Then I saw these yarn keys that are supposed to hold your label. Now, I tuck mine inside the ball, but even if I can't for some reason, I can think of a bajillion other ways to keep the label with the yarn without spending $10. Yeah, so I think we've established I'm a penny pincher. So I'm sitting on the floor of my craft room closet and I'm sorting yarn. And I see that I have these 3 groups. It's a full skein with a partial skein. And I want to keep them together and put them up here, up higher where they're not going to be by themselves. But I want them to stay together. So I'm going to take a tapestry needle and some scrap yarn. And first I'm going to work it through this whole skein, and then I'm going to take its matching little component here and loop it through there. So you see I've kind of threaded them together like that. And then I probably should have done this at a table so that I could properly show you what the plan is. Then I cut the yarn and I'm going to tie it together so that these stay together. Now what I used to do is take a straight knitting needle and just stick it through both of them, and I stored them like that. I don't know if I ever showed you that or not, but I never use straight knitting needles anymore. I use these, you know, circular needles with the cords like this. So I don't have them to do that. So I thought, what am I going to do? Well, another thing you could consider would be wooden skewers that you make shish kebabs with. So, but I've got plenty of yarn, right? Lots of scrap yarn, so this will work beautifully. So I'm going to do each of these, and then I'll put them up here in my variegated assortment, and they'll stay together. And if you're looking for a good book, this one is great. It's called What Alice Forgot. It's about this lady who fell down, bumped her head, and when she woke up, she's pretty much lost 10 years of her life. She can't remember 10 years. And so it's awesome. It's funny, it's dramatic, it's endearing. I really like it. So that's all the projects I've got to show right now. I was trying to get you to see. Cozy absolutely loves to sit with the dolls. Anywhere the dolls are, she wants to sit with them. I have even taken to carrying the dolls upstairs, and I put them in the cat bed with a blanket on their lap, and she sits on top of the dolls. It's hysterical. So let me hear some of your goals written down below already on our Facebook group. She's usually sharing on Facebook. I'll have the link in the description box. We've already been talking about some of our goals too. So it's really good to share your goals, because sometimes people will read them and they'll go, oh my goodness, that's a really good idea. I'd like to do that too. I love when we can learn from one another. So anyhow, thanks for watching, and look for tutorials soon and more chit chat. I really miss this. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.